Another major QB domino has fallen moments ago. Husan Longstreet, the number 6 ranked quarterback in the country, he announced for the Texas A&M Aggies. So Longstreet was the final QB in the top 10 that was uncommitted. He's no longer uncommitted. He is committed, which means all 10 quarterbacks in the top 10 are committed. But that doesn't mean that they're completely out of play, because obviously guys like Juju Lewis, Deuce Knight, Keelon Russell, they're still in play to some degree. We're going to break it down in this video. I got Philip Dukes on. Yes, the 5-star flex and the inside scoop collab that everybody's been asking for is finally here with Husan Longstreet coming off the board. We're going to talk some QB dominoes, but first, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel. We're growing this thing. We want you to be a part of it, so go on and hit subscribe. All right, let's bring on Philip Dukes. So Philip, Husan Longstreet comes off the board to A&M. Let's take a look at the QB dominoes. Here's some of the teams that need a QB. You got Auburn, UF, Oregon, Ole Miss, Colorado, South Carolina, Georgia. And here's who's being recruited. Juju Lewis, Deuce Knight, Keelon Russell, Antoine Hill at 11, Ryan Montgomery at 15, and Bear Bachmeier, who is committed to Stanford at number 16. Let's start with Auburn, because I thought that Husan Longstreet really came down to A&M and Auburn. I thought maybe at one point he was going to go to Auburn, but they miss on him. So now Auburn's still searching for their quarterback. Who should Auburn fans be paying attention to?
I think the top 2 quarterbacks that Auburn fans should be paying attention to would be Julian Lewis. I think Juju is somebody he's already set up his official visit, and he's someone where originally the interest seemed like it was pie in the sky, so to speak. Yeah. But now you'll see that the interest is real. He's only scheduled 4 official visits, and one of them is to Auburn. And the other quarterback that I think that you have to look at is going to be KJ Lacey from Saraland, the current Texas commit. You've seen Texas kind of look around a little bit. I think they did have Keelon Russell on campus recently. So I think that's another quarterback that you could see end up in the class for Auburn.
Yeah. Were you a little surprised about Longstreet's decision? Did you think Auburn had a shot there at the end?
According to intel, I thought that that interest or how close they were probably that ship kind of sailed maybe a few days ago, earlier in the week. You saw it, especially. I think one of the telltale signs for me was Julian Lewis setting up his official visit. I think if Auburn knew that they had Longstreet coming, then they wouldn't have set up that official visit with Lewis. So I think that it was a little bit. I think they kind of knew. From the people that I've talked to, and I think that it does mean that they will be going full bore at Julian Lewis.
And Auburn's not the only team going full bore for Julian Lewis. Let's talk a little Georgia, because Georgia comes into play when you talk QB dominoes. When they missed on Matt Zollers going to Georgia could have saved a headache for some other teams that we're about to talk about, because then Georgia has their QB. Matt Zollers wasn't really being considered by some of these other programs that we're talking about, but Georgia misses on Zollers. So now who's in play for the Dogs?
I think you got to go Ryan Montgomery. He's someone who has serious interest. For the past few months, he's pretty much whittled it down to UGA, South Carolina, and Florida. And I think of those 3 schools, I think UGA is the school that if they push, he becomes the guy. But I'm not sure if UGA wants to go ahead and pull the trigger on Montgomery the way that would the way that it would have to happen for Montgomery to end up in Athens would be for UGA to say, unmistakably, you're our guy. And right now, I think UGA does still have a few options on the table, one being Julian Lewis. So right. I think in the meantime, you've seen schools like South Carolina and the University of Florida kind of step up in Montgomery's recruitment. And I think that he could pull the trigger sooner than later.
Yeah, that's another one of those ripple effects, because if UGA can land, say, a Juju Lewis, then it's just a UF South Carolina battle for Ryan Montgomery. But if Ryan Montgomery goes to Georgia, that kind of spoils the plans for both South Carolina and Florida. But then enter the picture to Antoine Hill, the number 11 ranked quarterback in the country. Do you think that he would end up in Gainesville if we see, say, a Ryan Montgomery come off the board to Georgia?
Yeah, I think so. He already has a long-standing relationship with the Gators. One of his teammates, Peyton Joseph, who blocks for him, is already committed to the Gators as well.
Mhm.
I think that he has kind of garnered some late interest from schools like Florida State, but I think that Florida has been there. They've been there for a long time with Hill, and he's just waiting on the okay, so to speak, to say, hey, I'll be your guy. And as long as you guys give me that assurance that I'm the guy in this class, then I will be your guy. So I think that's just kind of where we are right there with the Antoine Hill situation. And I think, like as you said, as the dominoes fall, you'll see people start to claim their spot.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So let's knock one of these dominoes out. Let's connect the dots here. Bear Bachmeier, he's committed to Stanford. I think that could be Oregon. Now, Oregon already has Akili Smith Jr. committed solidly, but they do want a number 2. They were hoping to land Longstreet. I think they flip Bachmeier. Now let's talk about, who do we want to talk about here? We want to talk about Deuce Knight. Now, Deuce Knight is solidly committed to Notre Dame, but we also know that Alabama and, more importantly, Ole Miss are trying to knock on his door. What do you think about Deuce Knight? We know he's not taking any visits right now, but what's your take there on his commitment to Notre Dame?
I think he's solid right now. I think Notre Dame has done a really good job of recruiting him, especially at that distance when you have a home team like Ole Miss right around the corner. Being able to get him to believe in what's going on in Notre Dame outside of when you look at the fanfare, you look at the Twitter and the social media presence of a guy like Lane Kiffin, and being able to keep it football and saying, hey, don't worry about the clout. You'll get plenty of clout if you come to South Bend. So I think they're doing a good job so far. And I think the telltale sign is going to be when you see those official visits roll out. If Deuce Knight says, okay, well, I'm just going to go check out Alabama and Ole Miss,
Right.
then you start to kind of feel like, all right, there could be an opportunity for him to flip to one of those schools. But I think as long as he doesn't visit and he's not visiting publicly, then I think that Notre Dame still has the best shot at landing a commitment that they have already secured.
Yeah, and I know Notre Dame fans get upset whenever we talk about Deuce Knight potentially flipping to another program. But hey, Deuce Knight continues to say that I talk to other teams' coaches every single day. If you're talking to another team's coach every single day, at some point, you're going to end up taking a visit. So until he shuts that recruitment down, we're going to continue to talk about him. Keelon Russell, he's the number 10 ranked quarterback in America, and he was an early commitment to SMU, but his recruitment seems like it's buzzing. He had a great weekend at OT7 in Texas over the weekend. Who would you connect Keelon Russell to? Any programs that we're talking about connected to Keelon Russell right now?
Yeah, I think the Longhorns. I think Texas is a team that you got to watch, especially when you look at how KJ Lacey has been looking around. You start to kind of wonder about that relationship and how that's going. They do feel like that. They have to have a contingency plan in case KJ Lacey does decide to either stay home with Auburn or go to another school. So I think you got to watch Russell. And as these quarterback dominoes continue to fall, they're going to be guys who they may not be in the top 10 now, but they'll be in the top 10 possibly by the end of the year. Like as the rankings go, you get another year of development under their belt. You also get more information for the rankings team. You'll see guys start to flip and change. So from that perspective, I think that as that changes, so do boards in recruiting offices. So that's where you'll see Texas say, okay, well, we had this guy ranked here before, but after this season, after seeing how he performed at OT7 when the Bullets were flying in the 7-on-7 atmosphere, maybe he's a little bit higher on our board than we thought he was. And I think as these dominoes continue to fall, that's what you'll continue to see as far as the reshuffling of boards based on need and talent.
Yeah. And then we can't end the QB domino equation without talking Colorado. To me, they're kind of the wild card in all of this, right? Shedeur is graduating. He's moving on. There's no clear number 1 behind him at Colorado. This is an opportunity. If you think that you can come in and play right away, it could be an opportunity. What do you make of Colorado's QB search?
I think Colorado, every year they make a splash. And I think now the splash that they want to make is Julian Lewis. I think that is probably, when you talk about the Hollywood stature of a Deion Sanders and his pure celebrity versus that, there is no quarterback or player in the country with more celebrity than Julian Lewis. When you talk about a match made in heaven when it comes to just how you carry yourself, the things that go along off of the field, there isn't another player in the country with the Travis Scott NIL endorsement deal. So when you think about those type of things, it does give Coach Prime and the Buffaloes a real shot at Julian Lewis. But if it's not Lewis, you could see Deion try to get involved with another quarterback later on, and when you look at the lure and the pull of what goes on in Colorado, especially on that West Coast, it's going to be hard it's going to be hard to keep a top quarterback out of Boulder this year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. They're kind of like, when we look at all these connections here, Colorado is the disruptor, right? They could come in and we think we know, okay, he might go here, he might go there, but Colorado could be the team that really comes in and impacts these QB dominoes as we get going with this cycle. Philip Dukes.
You know what? Real quick, Newberg, I want to say this. So when we talk about Colorado, and I'm going to talk about this some on the 5-Star Flex, I had a really, really good conversation with, I was in Arkansas this past weekend, had a great conversation with DB coach Marcus and co-DC Marcus Woodson, who had Travis Hunter committed to him for years before he flipped to Jackson State. And he took me through every bit of that journey. And when I tell you, when Deion sets his eyes on a guy, there is no one in the country that has that same pull and same effect when it comes to the top players, because nobody else in the country can say, hey, I'm a Hall of Famer, my name is Deion Sanders, and this is how you can become like me. So when he went through that story, I'm telling you, if Deion sets his eyes on one of these top guys, and they may be committed to another school, you got to watch Colorado. So the fact that you call him a disruptor, I thought was very apropos.
Yeah, I think they're kind of the one to watch, no matter who's committed where. Hey, I don't even want to put this out there, but remember, Bryce Underwood made it to Boulder a couple times, or at least one time before his commitment to LSU. He hasn't gone and taken any other trips. So I'm just saying, watch out for Deion until the end. You guys, let's talk. Comment section below. How do you think these QB dominoes are going to fall? Who goes where? Let me know. Comment section below. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed that, go check out the hundreds of videos that we have on this channel, and also do me a favor, hit subscribe to the On3 Recruits channel.